screen, everyone can say hello to YouTube. Say hi. Alright. Development manifesto time. So, what are we all expecting? Everyone's expecting Necromancer nerfs. We already can see Glancing Blow. We were expecting that. And we're expecting the Spellslinger nerfs. That's... is this tip meter? No, because I can't get rid of it separately from all the other stuff. It can just stay. It's fine. Alright, so... As with every league, we're making some changes to a few key mechanics that outclass alternatives and provide too much power with too little investment. Helps with a fresh metagame, encourages players to consider alternatives, and prevents us from having to raise the difficulty, blah 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 blah. Yep, that's cool. Cool. So, Ascendancies. We've lowered the offering effect on Necromancer's Mistress of Sacrifice and on the Ascendants back to its past value of 50%. That's fine. And also lowered the critical strike chance multiplier on Assassin's Deadly Infusion and the critical strike multiplier on Assassin's small passives. Really? These two passives are making these classes too generically powerful for too many builds. No, they weren't. Badge of the Brotherhood was. But okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Crit multi is a nerf, sure, but if you leave me with 11 power charges and a Badge of the Brotherhood, then I don't care. That's not an issue. Missed the mark there. That's fine. Glancing Blow. We've changed Glancing Blow to cause more damage to pass through your block. You now take 65% of damage from blocked hits. Keystone combined with effects that recover life or energy shield on block, or providing too much survivability for too little investment. This is also fine. This changes nothing. This changes nothing. This is fine. Cool. Divine Flesh. The Divine Flesh Keystone provided extremely strong defensive layer against elemental and chaos damage, provided you can get enough chaos resistance. We've lowered the amount of maximum chaos resistance the Keystone gives to plus 5%, making investment into maximum chaos res more necessary to get the same defensive outcome. To be honest, I never thought this was... Not never, but it quite often wasn't the right one to take anyway, at least in softcore. And I mean, it's definitely nerfed now, but I don't know if that makes it worthless. We could definitely still work with that. Like your Divine Flesh builds, just having a little more investment into Chaos Res, into max Chaos Res is still possible. It just makes the other options more appealing, but there are always other options, so I'm okay with this. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that. Enduring Cry. This combined with the Cold Arms Keystone gave a convenient defensive layer with little or no interaction. Yeah, it was my favorite part. We're increasing Enduring Cry's cooldown to 8 seconds and requiring at least one enemy to be in range to generate an endurance charge in order to increase the importance of positioning and timing during gameplay. Okay. Again, this changes nothing. It just means that you can't pre-up your endurance charges before a boss fight, but you're still, if you were running a build that had Call to Arms and was using Enduring Cry, you're just still going to have Call to Arms and use Enduring Cry, and you're still not going to think about it. It's just going to be slightly worse in the way of you can't pre-up them before a boss fight, but you're still never going to think about it. It's still definitely automated. We're still definitely not worrying about it. At worst, we put it with second wind support as well, so that it can just be quicker. And that's fine. And they looks like they've kept the regen So this changes nothing. Ball lightning combined with slower projectiles outclassed the damage of other spells, so it's had its damage and area lowered slightly. This is fair. I mean, they tried to nerf it last time, and everyone very quickly worked out that it wasn't in fact a nerf at all. And so this is probably just going to put it in the place that they intended to nerf it to. So that's fine. Oh god, here we go. Spellslinger. Triggering spells with Spellslinger was faster and more convenient than other methods of casting spells while leveling. It now has a longer cooldown, but gains more cooldown recovery as it level, making it more rewarding to reach higher endgames. Sure, whatever. The skill now starts with a reservation override of 30%, scaling down to 25% at gem level 20. What's its now? Is it 20 now? So even its level 20 is nerfed? Oh, man. That's... I'm not in love with that. It was already pretty weak endgame. Every version of a Spellslinger was already pretty weak endgame. And they made it worse endgame. Now, I get that it was very smooth early game, and so I could get behind the idea of making it a little harder at the beginning. But the endgame versions of Spellslingers were all not that great to begin with. Like, they're really not. Like, the only one that even performed moderately well would have been VD Necromancer, right? Like, that's... All the other versions are when it comes down to endgame. So I would have been perfectly fine if it like started at 30 and went to 20. Or even hit 20 at level 21 to reward like corrupting it or whatever. But this seems over the top and makes me a little less excited about Spellslinger. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Redemption Sentry Specters. The monster variety had a superior damage type and scaling and clear speed compared to most other Specters, so it has had its damage and life lowered. I mean, this is just unnecessary. It's really the helmet from Harvest League that was the problem, not so much Redemption Sentries at all. A lot of people got really upset about Redemption Sentries, but didn't understand that they've been decent Specters for like since Conquerors of the Atlas came out, and they only became OP this league because of Harvest crafting and the helmet being disgusting. With that gone, they weren't really in that much of a good play. But again, this also doesn't matter, right? We don't have numbers on it. Maybe they're still good enough to use. If it's not good enough to use, again, still doesn't matter. There's like 8 other Specters we can use that'll all be fine. So Summer Necromancer's still fine, and if anything, quality of life buffed because of the keeping of zombies and stuff like that. Like, this is fine. It's fine. We're not worried about this at all. Right. Cluster Jewels. We made a few numeric tweaks on specific Cluster Jewel notables that provided a little too much power. This time, we're only lowering the values of Precise Commander, Vicious Bite, and Vengeful Commander, but may take a few other changes in the future. You guys understand that we can't even get Cluster Jewels without Harvest Crafting, right? Okay. What are other good Specters? Solar Guards, the little lightning laser dudes that I can't remember the name of. There's Fireball Goats from Act 1 that do really well. There's There's a few others as well. There's plenty of fine options. Spectre builds don't change. Slave drivers, that's the one. Thank you. Vitality, precision, and clarity. Vitality has always had a value that seemed low compared to the power of other auras with similar mana reservations. Yes, it's garbage. Which means it had seen little use outside of enabling powerful Vitality-specific Watcher's Eyes. Yup. We've changed the skill to have a flat mana reservation that grants flat life regeneration instead of percentage life regeneration. It's now available at level 10. Their attribute requirements are now consistent, only requiring the primary attribute at 75% of the value of a standard one. Various powerful Watcher's Eye modifications for the aura that reserve a flat amount of mana, Vitality, Precision, and Clarity have had their values lowered to match the low investment required to use these auras. At the same time, we've changed a small number of other specific Watcher's Eye modifiers that were providing large values of recovery rates. Was anyone around thinking that Watcher's Eyes were a problem and that they were too OP? For like how incredibly hard they were and how incredibly rare they were and how incredibly expensive they were. They didn't really provide that much power. This confuses me. Also, I'm going to need specific numbers, but what I'm reading here is Vitality was bad and not worth the mana, so we way lowered the mana and then also made it even worse. Like, what? What? Okay, sure, whatever. Vile Impurity skills. These skills have been changed to grant maximum elemental resist instead of less damage taken. This is mostly to prevent clever use of game mechanics with standard items that could completely prevent certain types of damage taken. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter at all. Ailment effects. We've changed some ailment modifier stats like chill effect, shock effect, chill duration, and freeze duration to instead apply to all cold and lightning ailments. This will allow them to affect alternative ailments, sap and brittle. This affects some unique items, passives, and other modifications. That's cool. I like that. I very much like that. That's a very good change. Weird that they're doing it in chill, shock, chill duration, and freeze duration, and not ignite also affecting Scorch. Weird. But okay. But weird. But alright. Projectile behavior ordering. Oh, this is the big one. We changed the order. The projectiles will perform special behaviors so that splitting now occurs first, followed by pierce, fork, chain, and then return. Love this. Love this. For specific mechanics that had chances to occur or not occur, you'll now be able to fall back to the other behaviors the projectile has. Previously, if a projectile had a chain remaining, the skill could no longer return until it had chained the last time, even if there are no enemies in range to chain to. Now the projectile will return and could still make use of the remaining chain if it hits an enemy during that return. Yo! What's the usual source of split? Frostblades and the amulet, which name is... Chat will help me. Fury Valve. Never mind. I got it there on my own. What has a chance to chain an additional time? There's plenty of different ways to get that. The steel skills split now too. Yep. But Fury Valve is the big one that I'm thinking of when it comes to this. And this bit at the end is a very large game changer. Now the projectile will return and could still make use of the remaining chain if it hits an enemy during that return. That's huge. That's huge because up until this second, right now, the return mechanic was absolute garbage and no one took it. And if you did take it, you were wrong. This changes everything. Now the return mechanic is actually Pog. Now I like it. So that's big. And now I need to make some projectile builds. Because that is very Pog. I am very, very pleased about that. That's really nice. How do you get return other than skills with it built in? I mean, quality on faster projectiles, but also there's an anoint and things like Venom Gaia and stuff like that. There's plenty of ways. There's a few ways to get return. Right. Reduced visibility and stealth. Sources of reduced visibility have now been changed to stealth. Previously reaching 100% reduced visibility would make you unable to be detected by any enemy. While now 100% stealth will halve the range at monsters when enemies detect you, while at 200% stealth would reduce it to 1/3 of their standard range. Yep, okay. Values of stealth have been adjusted to compensate for this. Alright, that's fine. That's fine.
Patch notes when.
Okay, Wals, thank you very much for the 11-month resub. How bad do you think the Assassin nerfs will be? We've already been through them. They're not bad at all. They don't matter. They missed the mark completely on why Assassin was good. Assassin wasn't good because of all the crit multi. The crit multi really helped. Assassin was good because it had 10 or 11 endurance charges, and not endurance charges, power charges, and then threw on a Badge of the Brotherhood and got 10 or 11 frenzy charges for free. And that stayed. So we don't care about the Assassin changes. Oh no, I'm only going to have 650 crit multi instead of 800 crit multi. You'll be fine. Yeah, don't worry about that. This is an odd change that I don't think affects me in any way because I've never attempted to be stealthy in my life. My entire plan in the next league will still be to just run in and kill everything and then worry about setting off the triggers if I do. I don't know, I just clear faster so I still get my reward. Like, I'm not stealthing. That's not happening. Changes to mods which provide a flat life regeneration. Flat life regeneration provides a substantial amount of defensive power at lower levels, but their values are notoriously low for endgame play. The values of many mods which provide flat life regeneration have been increased by as much as 100%. Guys, you now get 3.5 flat regen. Get fucked. What? How many 1.8 life regen things have we seen? Come on. As much as 100%. There could be 1,000%, and then maybe I'll care. Making these mods more competitive with the percent-based life regen at higher levels. The regeneration mod also rolls slightly less common on items. This is my favorite part. Oh, this is the part that's good. It rolls slightly less commonly. Thanks. That is still a buff. We're gonna count that as a buff because they're making it roll less likely. However, that could literally have been flat has been increased by 1,000%, and then maybe we'd look at it. Maybe. It wouldn't even be a go-to then. It would just be like a, we'll have a look. Maybe it's okay. If it was 1,000%. 5,000% would make it good? Yes, I think so. 5,000% would put it into a good spot where it became pretty good for a lot of builds. 1,000% would make it okay. Like, this is nothing. It's so garbage that doubling it is nothing. Right? So that's irrelevant. We can just don't worry about it. We're still not taking flat life regen. The only instance where this 100% thing might make a difference is maybe the flat regen on the Vitality's Watcher's Eye, which is the only one high enough that you would even notice it, and it's already not good, but it's high enough that it's noticeable. Maybe if that one gets doubled, a little bit of value gets added to that Watcher's Eye roll. Maybe. So, yeah, don't worry about that. Changes to the mod tagging system. During Harvest, we added the ability to view the tags for mods when holding down Alt. Yep. Further changes to the mod tagging system required in order to display tags in the long term. We have standardized existing systems that use mod tags and use the same tags to use the same tags. Applied similar and more consistent philosophy to categorize which mods should receive a tag, and we've also made a few changes to fossils. Their primary goal of these changes is to make the effects of crafting functions that rely on mod tags more clear and predictable. Okay. From 3.12 onwards, the tags displayed while holding Alt, which were previously used for fossil and harvest crafting, will also be used by catalysts. The cannot roll attack and cannot roll caster metacrafts. The new enchantments available on Heist will also use the tags, as will all future uses of the mod tag system. Mod tags will also be displayed on unique item mods. Okay. New tags that have been added to support the merger are ailment, attribute, curse, damage, gem, and resistance. Wasn't resistance already a tag? I'm pretty sure resistance was already a tag. Oh, no, you're right. It was a catalyst and it affected all the things that were resistances. We just didn't have the tag that said resistances. Right. Okay. That's fair enough. The changes made to the system, which use mod tags, are as follows. Turbulent catalysts will affect mods with both the elemental and damage types. With both or with either? With both or with either? I believe they mean both, but it could be taken wrong. I believe it has to have both elemental and damage. Other catalysts will use these new tags or existing tags normally. Corroded fossils and prismatic fossils now affect mods which both the physical and ailment or chaos and ailment tags, rather than the bleeding and poison tags. The bleeding and poison tags are no longer used. Okay. Faceted fossils now use the new gem tag, which has been applied to all mods that directly affect gems. The gem level tag is no longer used. This opens up new uses of the multifaceted fossil while minimally impacting their existing functions. I'm not entirely sure that this last sentence is true, but I don't quite know enough about the plus level crafting to go into detail about why I'm worried about it, but I'm worried about it. Bound fossils now also increase the likelihood of rolling curse mods in order to expand their range of uses. Read, make it harder to roll things. Okay. Prismatic fossils no longer separately affect the weighting of fire, cold, and lightning mods, as these mods now always also tagged as elemental. The same is true for jagged fossils for bleeding mods, aberrant fossils for poison mods. These aren't functional changes, but provide great clarity as fossils no longer have effects that aren't explicitly described. Okay. The cannot roll attack mods and cannot roll caster mods metacrafts now simply use the attack and caster tags, which makes sense and is far more transparent. So that's nice. Finally, the rationale to use tag mods has been simplified and all existing mod tags reviewed for consistency in order to allow players to reasonably infer what tags a mod may have even without viewing them directly. In summary, tags are now only added to mods which specifically and directly affect the subject of the tag. Some of the main implications of this include conditional mods do not receive tags based on the condition. For example, a mod that grants damage while on full life does not receive a life tag. Mod that grants attack speed if you've dealt a critical strike recently does not receive a critical tag. A mod that grants power charges on critical would receive the critical tag, since it directly modifies the effect of a critical strike. Okay. Makes sense. Any tag that is necessarily a subject of another tag, a subset of another tag, receives both tags. Currently, this just means that all fire, cold, and lightning mods are now also elemental mods. This isn't a functional change to pristine fossils, as mentioned above. They used to also apply fire, cold, and lightning modifiers without explicitly describing this. A recent concept is that all bleed-related mods now received an attack tag as well as the physical and ailment tag, since bleed can only be applied by attacks. Did this make the bleed bow harder to make? Or easier to make? I've never played the bleed build, so I'm not actually sure whether this is going to be easier or harder, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the same. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. Can now just spam jagged fossils without the corrodeds? Maybe, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to need to see patch notes to properly patch notes when. Mods granting skills or keyworded buffs do not grant tags matching the stats on those skills or buff. Previously, it was very inconsistent whether or not these tags were granted. There's a more minimalistic approach we have chosen in order to prevent too many mods which grant buff, requiring an enormous number of tags. Mods granting notables or keystone passives do not grant tags matching the stats of those passive skills. Blah, 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 blah. It was judged necessary for the sake of cluster jewels. Mods granting notables or keystone passives do grant tags matching the stats of those passive skills. While this is inconsistent with our approach to buffs, it was judged necessary for the sake of cluster jewels. So maybe cluster jewels are a little bit easier to make. This might help. This might help. Yeah, definitely still won't be as easy as Harvest. Kind of the tags are all over the place. Well, they shouldn't be now with this coming in. Like, it should make way more sense. We'll see. Obviously, patch notes required to confirm, but it should make a lot more sense. Thousands of individual changes have been made to mod tags. So to assist with the understanding of the implication, we've prepared a full list of mods which can roll on items with the new tags. Click here. Oof. Stress more the most. Will undoubtedly be able to find new methods with a little investigation. Sweet living Jesus. Tailwind has no tag at all. Elusive has the critical tag still. Interestingly enough, this has tags, which I'm really hoping means I can somehow craft it. Is there even a speed tag anymore? Yes. Yes, there is. Tons of them. Okay, we're just going to wait for Craft of Exile to get this list. This is way too much for a regular human being to go through. Look at this. Don't worry about it. Craft of Exile will sort you out. Like, I'm not going through that. Alright, so overall thoughts. First of all, I'm going to rank it at like a 7 because I think it overall seems really good. There are some bits that confuse me. This is fine. This is unnecessary, but fine. This is also fine. This is 100% correct. Necro will still be fine. No issue with that at all. Spellslinger, on the other hand, that's rough. That's very rough. I'm a little sad that Redemption Sentries are getting a hit, but we will still not care about that. There's so many other Specters we could use. It doesn't matter at all. Spellslinger, think this is rough. Like, this was unnecessary. It was already... Spellslinger was already pretty weak endgame, generally. It didn't need this bit. Scaling down to 25 at gem level 20, that didn't need to happen. Like, it was already pretty weak. This probably means your VD Spellslinger Necromancer is already good enough. They can probably survive. But the other ones that were weaker than that, all other ones were already too weak at endgame. So, Assassin changes are irrelevant. Literally ignore them. Don't overreact to that. Badge of the Brotherhood was the reason Assassin was so powerful, and they didn't touch it. So just make the exact same Assassin build you were before, and then cry a little bit because you've only got 650 crit multi instead of 720 crit multi. You're fine. Don't worry about it. I'm a little worried about Cold Slinger. I feel like it'd still make it work while leveling, but now it's going to have the problem of not enough endgame power. We'll have to do a little bit of math. The Cold Slinger might be dead in the water and not worth doing. Funny how many cold dot slinger guides are already out. I've said it once and I'll say it 100 more times, and I'll say it to the face of anyone who's doing it. If you're putting out build guides for a league before the patch notes hit, you are trying to scam people for views, and I don't approve. And then we press the button, wait for patch notes. Stop scamming people. Otherwise, super happy. Most of this is really good. Most of this is really, really good. I'm happy with almost all of it. The Spellslinger stuff confuses me a little bit. But I want specific numbers on that. But otherwise, all good. Now, patch notes when?